Okay. What can I call you?
Okay. Call me Mujahideen. Call me the soldier of God.
I'm a teacher calling on high school. There is a student here with a gun.
He's inside the school shooting at the gun!
Well, I had to do it because somebody had to do something.
After shooting in the theater, I didn't have a plan of whether to die or not.
Hello and Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to our channel, or welcome back if you have been here before. Today's case is a member-suggested one, so thank you to Alex Hammonds for recommending this one. Unfortunately, it has to be said that going into this case, we want to be clear that we will not tolerate any negative comments about the victims based on their sexuality. There is simply no reason to spread hate regarding innocent people who lost their lives. Thank you for being considerate and keeping the comments respectful. With that out of the way, let's jump into today's case by first talking about the perpetrator's life prior to the attack. Omar Mir Sadiq Mateen was born on November 16, 1986, to his parents, Sadiq and Shala, who were both originally from Afghanistan. They reportedly immigrated to the US in the 1980s. Originally born in New York, Omar and his family moved down to Port St. Lucie, Florida in 1991, when he was still a child. He had 3 sisters, though I wasn't able to find their birth order. It was later stated that since he was the only son, he had a lot of pressure to live up to his parents' expectations, especially his father's. Omar began showing signs of aggression, disobedience, and inability to focus very early on in his life. He had numerous issues all throughout school, with many describing him in very concerning ways. Violent, disrespectful, out of control, and problematic were just a few of the ways that those who knew Omar in school remembered him. One report made by his teacher in 3rd grade read, "Academic areas of concern, difficulty listening, concentrating during instruction. He seems to not hear what is being said unless one-on-one. He grabs at manipulative, inappropriately, impulsively. Does not have a concept of more or less, or adding doubles. Behavioral areas of concern, very active, antsy, constantly moving, verbally abusive, rude, aggressive, much talk about violence and sex, obscenities, hands all over the place, on other children, in his mouth." In 5th grade, another report was written about him, which read, "Teacher's observation of students' performance. Unable to stay focused, constantly out of seat, oppositional, lacks remorse, refuses to do assigned work. When attending to topics of his interest, he will ask multiple questions, often becoming fixated." It stated that in total, Omar was reprimanded for his behavior 31 times in elementary school. According to one of his former peers, one of the times he was disciplined was in the 5th grade, when Omar told a group of his classmates that he was going to bring a gun to school to kill everyone. His classmates immediately reported the threat to a teacher, and as a result, Omar was suspended for 2 weeks. Omar's teachers and classmates alike also recalled that his incredibly disrespectful behavior originated from his father, Sadiq. Apparently, he told Omar on several occasions that he did not have to listen to women, and that he was to only listen to his family. The school staff did their best to help Omar, especially when he began acting out violently. But again, he was told he did not have to listen to them. A teacher from the school later stated, "The whole staff was concerned about him. I can honestly say of all my students, there were 2 that I knew they were going to grow up to hurt someone. The groundwork was done with the family. We did not get support from his father." She continued, "It's frustrating and it's sad to look back and go, oh my God, what we were afraid of came true." In tandem with his obviously inappropriate behavior and sometimes conflicts with other students, Omar also struggled with his schoolwork as a whole, receiving many bad grades and reportedly failing several classes throughout many years. In middle school, one of Omar's teachers wrote a letter to his father which read, "It has been brought to my attention, after your phone conversation with Assistant Principal Roberts regarding your son's academic performance, that my classes are much too difficult for Omar, and that he is failing my classes due to this singular reason. Notwithstanding, I refer you to my previous written correspondence dated January 19th, 1999, in which I outlined Omar's situation concerning his poor academic performance, and which continue presently. I will again reiterate that Omar's attitude and inability to show self-control in the classroom create distractions and become a main source of difficulty for him. Furthermore, if Omar can improve his self-control, he will find greater social acceptance amongst his peers and thus gain self-confidence. The main factor prohibiting Omar from success in school is not that the work is too hard, but rather his difficulties in conforming to class/school rules. Moreover, I have found that Omar does little work in my class unless he has my undivided attention, and I am becoming quite concerned that I must continually remind Omar to express himself respectfully in my class. I believe Omar must realize that he is in school to work, and not to play and fool around. It would be very helpful if you discussed with him frequently that school is a place to work and apply himself academically. Unfortunately, Omar has great difficulty focusing on his classwork since he often seeks the attention of his classmates through some sort of noise, disruption, or distraction. This ultimately leads Omar to be disciplined, to lose valuable in-class time to complete his assignment, and easily impatient and restless when he is unable to complete his assignments. Mr. Sadiq, I believe that with your cooperation with Omar, we can impart to him reminders that a positive attitude towards his teachers, his schoolwork, and his conduct will only serve to improve his ability to perform excellent academic work. In addition, if Omar focuses more on the importance of trying to give his best effort, rather than wasting his time thinking up ways to get the class's attention away from their studies, then Omar's self-esteem and confidence will improve when his report card reflects his better work habits. His negative behavior clearly stuck with him into middle school, and even followed him later into high school, where it's reported that he was suspended for 48 days in total. There aren't many specific reasons stated for his suspensions, other than a seemingly bad fight, and just other general rule violations. There may have been multiple fighting incidents that occurred, but the one that he got suspended over took place when he was 14 years old. It was in his math class that Omar reportedly attacked a fellow student out of nowhere, for no reason. He proceeded to strike the student in the head multiple times, not stopping until a teacher physically got in between the two. As a result of this unprompted attack, Omar was charged with criminal battery and disruption of educational institutions. In addition to this, he was given 30 hours of community service duty and had to write an apology letter to the victim of his attack. He was also made to visit a prison and a boot camp as a part of a local Scared Straight program, in hopes of correcting his unpredictable and violent behavior. It's also reported that Omar was sent to an alternative school for a few months. Omar ended up writing a letter explaining the event 5 years later, when applying to a correctional officer training program. In it, he wrote, "Letter of explanation. On May 2001, I got in a fight with a fellow student in my math class at Martin County High School. After the fight occurred, the school resource officer released me to my parents. I did not get handcuffed and did not go to jail. The charge of battery was adjudicated, and the charge of disturbing school function was dropped. It has been 5 years since the fight occurred, and I have not gotten in any altercations ending up in physical contact. This was an experience of me growing up, and I learned a big lesson from it. I was 14 years old when this fight occurred." Back to his time in high school, later the same year that the fight took place in, the 9/11 terrorist attacks happened. Some students recalled that Omar jumped up and down, cheering as he watched the towers fall on TV. Omar also reportedly openly made fun of the fact that America was being targeted by terrorists. Someone who went to school with Omar at this time later said, "He was making plane noises on the bus, acting like he was running into a building. After 9/11 happened, he started changing and acting different." Another student recalled Omar once claiming that Osama bin Laden was his uncle. In fact, Omar, at various points in his life, later claimed to have friends and family in Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah. He also stated that he had personal connections to the Boston Marathon bombers, as well as the Fort Hood shooter, which I will mention again later. Either way, despite his many concerning behaviors and academic issues, Omar did end up graduating from high school. Into his years of adulthood, several sources state that Omar's relationship with his father was a bit rocky, with one stating that he could do nothing right in his father's eyes. I'm not exactly sure if he and his father had always had issues, but it is clear that his father had very high expectations of him, which I don't believe would manifest randomly in Omar's life after becoming an adult. Anyway, after graduating from high school, Omar was interested in joining law enforcement, which he would ultimately attempt to get into a few years later. But for the meantime, Omar held multiple jobs, not staying at any of them for very long. Between 2004 and 2006, he had at least 6 jobs, most in completely different fields from one another. Unlike reports of his early life, and those we will talk about soon, one of Omar's employers at a nutrition store, Margaret Barone, recalled that he was a good employee, someone who never got into conflicts with others. She knew of his difficulties with his father, and knew that despite his eager attempts to do good by him, he was never able to. When Omar stopped working at the store, he would apparently still come in often to buy supplements. That was when Margaret learned that he was using steroids, noticing that he had gotten much bigger in a very short amount of time as a result. In 2006, Omar received his associate's degree in criminal justice technology from Indian River State College, which propelled him into his law enforcement career. Late that same year, Omar left his job at the time in order to finally start his path into law enforcement, something he had wanted to accomplish for quite some time at this point. Omar began a correctional officer training program in October of 2006 at the Martin Correctional Institution in Florida. Throughout his time attending the course, he was reprimanded multiple times for various reasons, such as for sleeping in class, being late, or just not showing up at all. Just a quick interjection. In this video, we are going to talk a little about Omar's possible sexuality, as it is pretty important to the case. The reason I bring this up now is that, as far as I gathered, it was around this time in his life when he first showed signs of potentially liking men. Though I'm not sure if he was living with his parents at this time, the Washington Post stated that one of his parents' neighbors, who was gay, said that Omar used to look at him in a certain way, like he wanted me to approach him. He knew I was gay. I did also see a few sources that stated Omar asked out one of his male classmates, suggesting he was at least bisexual at this point. This classmate also apparently said they went to gay bars together a few times, and that he believed Omar was gay, but not out yet. This wasn't reported on all sources, but I did see it quite a bit, so I wanted to include it. This is also not the last instance of someone claiming Omar may have liked men, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Omar stayed in the correctional training course for about 6 months before he was ultimately dismissed in April of 2007. The reason for his dismissal was a combination of several factors. Along with his previously stated issues in the class, it's reported that the dismissal came after Omar asked someone if they would tell anyone if he brought a gun to the school. This was right around the time that the Virginia Tech massacre took place. Following his disappointing dismissal, Omar set his sights on a job as close as he could get to law enforcement, and that was in security. It was in September of 2007 when he got a job at G4S Secure Solutions as an armed security guard. He was also able to obtain a few firearms licenses after getting this position. Eventually, a few years after becoming a security guard, Omar found love when he met a woman named Sitora online. About a month and a half after meeting, Omar traveled from Florida to New Jersey to visit Sitora. She recalled that it was shortly after their first date that Omar confessed that he wanted to marry her, and that he would be bringing his family for their next in-person meeting. Omar held true to what he said, and he proposed to Sitora, to which she accepted. During their engagement, Sitora later recalled that her father in particular felt strange about Omar. She said, "My father told me that when he looked in Omar's eyes, he could tell that there was something off." Her family told her that marrying him would be the worst decision she ever made. Despite this, Sitora decided that she would still go ahead with the marriage, which would unfortunately prove to be a massive mistake. After leaving New Jersey with Omar without telling her family, the two of them tied the knot in April of 2009, officially starting their life together in Florida. Sitora later said, "In the beginning, he was a normal being that cared about family, loved to joke, loved to have fun." She also described the beginning of their marriage as happy and even magical. That side of him only lasted for a brief time before his behavior changed drastically. Omar began treating Sitora very poorly, which she later spoke about. "A few months after we were married, I saw his instability, I saw his bipolar, and he would get mad out of nowhere, and that's when I started worrying about my safety. Then after a few months, he started abusing me physically, very often, and not allowing me to speak to my family, and keeping me hostage from them." She also stated, "I would look in his eyes, and I would not see the man that I fell in love with. I would see a monster that was raging with hate and wanting to hurt everything that is alive." Sitora also later stated that Omar's mood would shift very drastically, seemingly for no reason. Sadly, Sitora was now stuck in a highly abusive relationship, living mostly cut off from her family, as they lived in New Jersey, and Omar rarely let her talk to them. Another thing that Sitora later brought to light and confirmed was the fact that Omar and his father had a strained relationship, and that Omar did everything he could to live up to his father's expectations. She said he was expected to be a good Muslim man and have a family and kids. He tried to do everything to meet his father's expectations, but I don't think that he did. His happiest moments were when he was flamboyant, when he was singing and looking in front of the mirror and dancing and taking pictures of himself. His father would really yell at him to be more manly. He could never be free to be who he is. She continued, saying, "You know, his father wanted him to be all tough and masculine. You know, here he is trying to be the perfect son for his family, for his father. Then, there's another side of him that's the biggest conflict that somebody from that background could have." Sitora later reported that during their relationship, she had her suspicions that Omar might have been gay. It was little things here and there that made her think this way, with her saying, "He would take a long time in front of the mirror, he would often take pictures of himself, and he made little movements with his body that definitely made me question things. It definitely popped up in my head whether he was totally straight." She also stated that Omar was never the one to initiate intimacy, which she felt a straight man would be more likely to do. Omar also made many comments regarding homosexuality. Sitora later stated, "It was in the moments that he would be, angry about something or just had a fight or pissed, that he would continuously make gay comments, and, he felt strongly about homosexuality." Sitora later claimed that Omar's father was extremely homophobic and wasn't afraid to express it. According to Sitora, he would often insult Omar by calling him gay, which seemed to have hurt him in her opinion. According to Sitora, Omar would switch between stating he wanted to honor his father and claiming that he despised him. Back to their relationship, there were times that Omar lashed out at Sitora after getting into an argument with his father, and these episodes would include beating her completely unprovoked, sometimes while she was sleeping, pulling her hair, and choking her, among other aggressive and violent actions. I also read that, like his previous employer, Sitora claimed that Omar had a history of using steroids. Thankfully, Sitora's family finally realized that she was very unhappy in her relationship and decided to visit her in Florida to see what was going on. That was when they found out that she was the victim of an abusive relationship and swiftly rescued her. They got to her house and demanded that she leave with them, which she obeyed. Sitora later recalled that Omar grabbed her arm, not letting her leave, and her family literally had to rip her out of his tight grasp. Sitora said that he reached into his back pocket, and she feared he had a gun. Thankfully, they all got out of the situation without too much conflict, and more importantly, without injury. The last time she ever saw Omar was when her parents rescued her from the home that she shared with him. Sitora ended up going back to New Jersey with her family, and after what I assume felt like forever, her short but frightening marriage to Omar was finally put to an end in August of 2009. Their divorce was finalized 2 years later, in 2011. In the same year, Omar met another woman online, named Noor Salman. Their relationship also progressed extremely quickly, and the two got married later that year in 2011. The two of them ended up having a son together, though due to his very young age at the time of the attack, there is really no other information regarding him. Noor had a similar experience with Omar to the one Sitora had, later stating that he would abuse her as well. According to her, he would hit and kick her throughout their marriage. She also claimed that Omar sexually abused her as well, raping her multiple times while they were together. Noor even apparently stated that Omar went as far as to threaten her life at times. We will talk about her more later in the video. At some point in 2011, Omar attempted to get a job with the Florida Highway Patrol, though I wasn't able to find much about this. Now, let's move on to the 10-month FBI investigation into Omar that took place between 2013 and 2014. At some point during his employment with G4S, Omar was stationed at a local courthouse. It's reported that there, he was the subject of many discriminatory comments mainly surrounding the fact that he was Muslim. His co-workers as well as police that worked at the courthouse apparently called him a Muslim extremist and potential terrorist. They also commented on a vest he was wearing, saying that they hoped it wasn't a suicide bomb vest. Omar claimed that one time an officer said, "Isn't it your prayer time? Take your magic carpet and pray to your Allah, and make sure it's in the east." In response, this was when Omar claimed that he had connections to Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, the Boston Marathon bombers, the Fort Hood shooter, as well as the Kenyan mall shooters. As a result of his comments, Omar was reported to the FBI, who swiftly opened a preliminary investigation. While being questioned, Omar told them that the claims were false, that he completely made them up, stating he was 1000% American. According to CBSNews.com, when speaking to the FBI, Omar said, "I'm mentally and physically 1000% against any of these terrorist organizations, which are anti-humanity and anti-American." The FBI ended up having a few undercover agents interact with Omar, listen to his phone calls, and even looked into his transactions. Nothing came of these efforts, and with Omar not giving them any reason to believe he was truly a threat, they closed the case. Omar was also assigned to a different location to guard in response to this. One of Omar's new co-workers, a former police officer named Daniel, who guarded a gated community with him, later had a lot to say about his experience working alongside him. He mentioned that Omar had concerning anger issues and would fly off of the handle over nothing. He said, "He was just agitated about everything. Always shaken, always agitated, always mad." Daniel also said, "When I say that he was unstable or unhinged, I mean this is a man who would lose his temper for no reason. He would kick walls, slap desks. I've seen him throw the chair across the room one time." According to Daniel, Omar was loud and constantly made homophobic, sexist, and racist comments. Daniel stated, "I complained multiple times that he was dangerous, that he didn't like blacks, women, lesbians, and Jews." Daniel later stated that Omar often talked about killing people, which unsurprisingly made him extremely uncomfortable. There was apparently a time when Omar expressed that he wanted to kill black people when he saw a black man drive past. Daniel later said, "You meet bigots, but he was above and beyond. He was always angry, sweating, just angry at the world." Daniel apparently brought up his growing concerns with their employer, but sources vary on if anything happened in response. Either way, Daniel started to distance himself from Omar, which clearly got to him. Daniel recalled, he said, "I thought you were my friend. You betrayed me. Nobody betrays me." But then it didn't escalate. He was up and down. According to Daniel, Omar's mood would change suddenly, and he would go from threatening him to telling him he was a good guy who was doing nothing wrong. Their relationship grew strained, and Omar began to harass Daniel, even apparently sending him up to 20 or 30 text messages a day, constantly badgering him, sometimes becoming aggressive. It got so bad that Daniel eventually quit the job, as he just did not want to deal with or be around Omar any longer. He later said that he regrets not doing something more about the situation, and maybe if he had, the later attack would not have taken place. Unfortunately, I don't think there was anything anyone could have done, seeing as even the FBI apparently couldn't do anything to stop it. It was 2 months after the first investigation into him that Omar gained the attention of the FBI once again, after he was discovered to have a connection to an American who carried out a suicide bombing in Syria in 2014. Omar attended the Islamic Center of Fort Pierce with a friend of his named Mohammed. Mohammed later stated that Omar never expressed any concerning views related to radicalization or extremism, but that changed at one point. There was also another man who attended this same mosque, and his name was Moner Muhammad Abu Sawla. I'm not sure if Omar ever spoke with this man, but it's possible. Let's talk a little bit about Abu Sawla and why he plays a part in this case. Moner Abu Sawla was a 22-year-old American citizen who was raised in Florida before eventually becoming radicalized. In 2013, Abu Sawla got on the FBI's radar after he was found to have traveled to Syria. As far as information goes, Moner claimed his reason for the visit was to see family members that lived there. Even though the visit to Syria was enough to garner the attention of the authorities, they still had no clue what was actually going on. When in Syria, Abu Sawla had met up with a jihadist organization by the name of Al-Nusra Front before returning to the States. Abu Sawla returned to Florida, but according to him, he quickly caught wind that the FBI was surveilling him. But before the FBI could act, Abu Sawla was back in Syria, conducting a martyrdom operation that would end his life. While in Syria, on May 25, 2014, Abu Sawla drove a truck armed with a bomb to a location before detonating it, killing himself, along with several Syrian troops in the process. Many speculate that Abu Sawla became radicalized after listening to alleged jihadist Anwar al-Awlaki, an American Yemeni lecturer who preached messages to Muslims, instructing them to kill American civilians and soldiers without hesitation. Al-Awlaki was killed in 2011, and Abu Sawla became inspired by him. Al-Awlaki was also found to have had a connection to the Fort Hood shooter. Now that we know a little bit about Abu Sawla and what he went on to do, let's move on. During a conversation between Omar and his friend Mohammed, Omar had brought up the fact that he had also watched Anwar al-Awlaki's videos. Mohammed later said, "It threw up a red flag for me. I asked him what he thought of them, and he said they were very powerful, which raised a red flag even more for me." This did not sit right with Mohammed, especially because of the recent bombing in Syria, perpetrated by none other than Abu Sawla, who again was a former member of their mosque. Concerned, Mohammed then contacted the FBI, reporting Omar for his worrisome statement, despite him not fitting a typical radical profile. Another investigation was launched, but again, the FBI apparently found nothing, and Omar was cleared of any suspicion once again. Despite the accounts from others who knew Omar, Mohammed later stated that he never witnessed Omar being homophobic. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about Omar's possible connection with his later target, the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. I was unable to figure out exactly when these supposedly took place, but there have been many reports from many people that Omar visited Pulse several times before the attack. A few regulars from the club claim to have seen Omar there numerous times over the course of a few years, some even apparently interacting with him. The head of security, Estella Peterkin, later recognized him and said that he sometimes caused problems and had to be kicked out of the club multiple times. A man who frequented the club, named James Van Horn, later said, "Sometimes he would be there for a few weeks at a time, and maybe on the weekends, and then you wouldn't see him for a little while. Then you'd see him again, and that's the way it kind of went." Another person who apparently saw Omar at the club several times was named Ty Smith. He said, "Sometimes he would go over in the corner and sit and drink by himself, and other times he would get so drunk he was loud and belligerent." He added, "He'd get really, really drunk. He couldn't drink when he was at home, around his wife or family. His father was really strict. He used to bitch about it." Chris Callan, a performer at Pulse, stated that he had seen Omar around the club for at least 3 years. He said, "I've seen him a couple of times at Pulse. A couple of other people that I've spoken with, including an ex-security guard, have actually witnessed this guy at Pulse many times before." Those who claimed they saw Omar at the club prior to the attack also reported that there was at least one incident that pointed towards Omar's violent behavior. According to Ty and Chris, Omar once got into an altercation and ended up pulling a knife out after someone made a religious joke. Now, this club was also a place that straight people would attend as well, so him being there doesn't automatically mean he was gay. However, it does support earlier claims that he may have been. Though many sources report that he frequented the club, it's important to note that there was no concrete evidence to prove Omar had ever been there, including no indication that he was, via phone record. However, if Omar was gay, he most definitely did not want those in his family to know, so it's possible that he purposely left his phone elsewhere and had a second one for his hidden life. I want to be clear that to my knowledge, the later investigation didn't turn up a second phone, so this is complete speculation. I also want to touch on the rumors that Omar used a few LGBTQ dating apps, including Grindr and Jacked. One man, who went by the name Miguel, to protect his identity, claimed that he and Omar initially met on Grindr, but eventually went on to meet in person. According to him, they met up at least 15 to 20 times at a hotel in Orlando, and he also stated that the two of them were friends with benefits, and that their sexual relationship lasted for about 2 months. He also said that Omar's wife was aware that he was gay. Miguel also later revealed that Omar had once had a sexual relationship with another man, and only later found out that the man was HIV positive, which reportedly enraged Omar, as I'm sure it would anybody. Miguel also said that he believes that the attack was a form of revenge for this incident, and that he didn't think it was an act of terrorism. Moving on, another man named Kevin, who also attended Pulse regularly, later claimed that Omar had been messaging him here and there for about a year prior to his attack. He did say that the two of them never did meet up in person, though. If it's true that Omar was frequenting the club and hooking up with men, he apparently did a good job of hiding it from his family. In fact, Omar's father, Sadiq, later came out and denied the possibility that Omar was anything other than straight. This opinion was based on Omar's general behavior, along with the comments he would make. On one occasion in particular, Omar apparently became furious and angrily ranted to his father after seeing a gay couple kissing in Miami. Either way, the rumor that Omar might have been gay is highly contested. I don't think we will ever truly know if he was or not. But of course, I wanted to include the information, as it is widely reported. There are also several witnesses who claim to have first-hand experience of him being so, and a few people in his personal life, including his ex-wife, who seem to think he could have been. Now, let's move on to the time leading up to the attack. It's important to note that going into this, it's speculated that Omar had a few locations in mind to commit his massacre at. Omar's wife, Noor, and their son were present during some of the prep for the massacre, which made many wonder if his wife was aware or involved in the planning in any way. We will come back to this in a little while. On April 26, 2016, Omar and Noor visited Disney World in what many believe was an initial attempt to survey the area, to see if it would be an ideal place to commit Omar's impending attack. Sometime between late April and early May, Omar attempted to buy a set of level 3 body armor, which is known for its ability to stop rifle rounds and is commonly used by tactical units and military personnel. He also attempted to buy 1,000 rounds of ammunition from the same local gun shop. It's reported that after informing Omar that they did not carry the armor he wanted, he made a phone call in which he spoke another language and then asked them about the ammunition. It's reported that the employees got a very odd feeling and therefore refused to sell him anything. Because of Omar's suspicious actions and the gut feeling the employees had, they decided it would be best to report him to the FBI. Unfortunately, the workers had no way of identifying Omar, since he left without making a purchase, and they only had his physical description to go off of. Because of this, nothing came from this report, and Omar was not investigated. Had he been, there's a small chance that the coming massacre would have been prevented. But, as we will find out, Omar had nothing on his record that prohibited him from making purchases such as these, so if he had not acted suspiciously, he would have been able to make his purchases anyway. The owner of the gun store that refused to sell to him, Robert, later said, "Nobody connected the dots. He slipped under the cracks, and this is where we're at now. Our intuition was correct. It's just very sad that we had him that close. He was that close that law enforcement could have got their hands on him." Robert had only learned Omar's true identity when the shooting later occurred, and he saw the perpetrator's face on a news article. Robert said, "Unfortunately, only then it was recognized. That's who was in the store." Moving on, according to surveillance footage captured on May 21st, Omar, his wife, along with their son, visited Disney once again, possibly for more reconnaissance. They were captured on security footage entering a store and buying an item for their son. According to many sources, it was during this trip to Disney that Omar viewed an article where a spokesman for the Islamic State encouraged their followers to carry out attacks and kill infidels during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Omar seemingly took this message to heart, because he would ultimately go on to do just this. On May 31st, Omar's wife, Noor, drove him to a local Walmart, where he was seen purchasing ammunition and a toy for their son. The next day, on June 1st, Omar made Noor the beneficiary of his bank account, in case of his death. On June 4th, Omar drove to a local gun store, where he set his sights on a Sig Sauer MCX rifle. He was once again caught on surveillance footage, this time examining the weapon he would go on to purchase that day. The next day, Omar returned and purchased another firearm, this time a Glock 17 handgun. It would be these very two weapons that Omar would later bring with him to his attack. Looking back, it's clear now that Omar was in the process of planning something horrific, but to most around him, his actions and behavior were not significant enough to catch their attention. Over the next few days, Omar continued to gather equipment for the massacre, buying additional magazines for his newly acquired rifle. And again, on June 8th, Omar visited Disney World, where he was seen wandering around by himself while his wife shopped. According to OrlandoSentinel.com, Omar and his wife made several purchases that were far beyond their budget in the weeks preceding the attack. It's reported that an IRS agent later testified that they spent $32,000 in total, including over $26,000 in credit card purchases. These purchases included about $8,000 in jewelry for Noor, $1,000 in takeout, and thousands of dollars at other various stores. The spent money also included all of the firearm-related purchases. Some theorize that this mass spending was one last hurrah, because Omar knew he would soon be unable to ever do anything like this again. It's also speculated that they did this so that Noor would have something tangible to sell later on, for whatever reason. In tandem with this, in the few days leading up to the massacre, Omar bought 3 plane tickets to later travel to California, one for himself, Noor, and their son. This is an interesting detail of the story, because everything else Omar was doing in this time points to him devising a disastrous plan, and knowing he probably wouldn't be around for much longer. On June 9th, Omar picked his recently purchased Sig Sauer MCX rifle up and visited an indoor shooting range, bringing the rifle with him. Surveillance video showed him firing the weapon and setting his sights. As mentioned before, many believe that Omar's first plan was to pull off his attack someplace in Disney World, and it seems very likely, considering the fact that he had visited the location numerous times, and as we are about to talk about, he even went there on the night of the attack. There is also some additional information that I stumbled across while looking into his wife's later trial that may hint at a plan Omar had for Disney World. According to reports, sometime on June 11th, the day before the shooting took place, Omar visited a Walmart where he purchased a baby stroller and a doll. Prosecutors would later state that this stroller and doll were meant to be used as concealment for his firearm, potentially enabling him to get into Disney World without attracting too much attention before he began his attack. However, this plan would ultimately never pan out. Now that we've discussed Omar's preparation for his sickening plan and actions in the days leading up, I will now be referring to him as his last name, Mateen. Hours after Mateen purchased the baby stroller and doll, he made his way to his potential target, Disney World. Mateen was once again captured on CCTV in Disney Springs, but this time, he was completely alone. He purchased a t-shirt inside of one of the stores, but it was later discovered that he threw it away right after buying it. This purchase points to the possibility that Mateen was trying to blend in. In the footage, Mateen did not have the stroller with him, and only had his cell phone. Now, we already know of Mateen's potential plans, so if he was looking to carry out his attack here, this visit was most likely one last reconnaissance walk before initiating the shooting. Something at this time made Mateen completely call off the plan, whether that be the lack of people he wanted to target, the large police presence scattered around the park, or another unknown reason. Now, if Mateen were truly on a recon mission, like it does appear, the amount of security present would be the type of thing he would be looking for. Seemingly having to figure out a new plan on the spot, he left Disney in search of a better, less secure target. It's reported that it was at this time that he searched for nearby nightclubs on his phone and found one called Eve. He originally drove there, but most likely noticed the heavy security presence. This club also searched people before letting them in, which may have spooked him, so Mateen again decided to look for another target. He searched for nightclubs once again, and Pulse was one of the results. The fact that he searched online for this target and initially went to a different club points to the possibility that he had no intention of attacking a gay club that night. Though some still do believe that he ultimately chose Pulse because it was a popular spot for LGBTQ people to hang out. It's reported that at one point, Mateen did another search for Eve and began to drive there, but quickly turned around and headed back to Pulse once again. Now let's get into the actual events of that night. Pulse Nightclub, the popular gay bar and dance club in Orlando, Florida, was hosting its weekly Latin night in the late hours of Saturday, June 11th, 2016, into the early hours of the next day, Sunday, June 12th. The club was absolutely packed with about 320 people dancing to loud music, drinking, and having a good time with their friends. None of them were prepared for or expected the horror that they would come face to face with on what felt to them like a normal night. At around 1:30 in the morning, now on the 12th, Mateen was seen on security footage entering the club using the front entrance. He made his way to the front desk, showed his ID, and paid to get in. They slapped a bracelet on his wrist and sent him on his way. He then made his way into the main dance hall, where the majority of people were gathered. Mateen can be seen walking through the crowd, before standing in one spot, seemingly observing. Everyone around Mateen at this point was having a blast, unaware that a crazed man, who was standing amidst them, was about to initiate a bloody rampage in less than 20 minutes. He stayed here for about 11 minutes, before then exiting the club through the main entrance. Several sources report that it was just before he initiated the attack that Mateen made a post to Facebook that said, "America and Russia, stop bombing the Islamic State. I pledge my allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. May Allah accept me." At 2 a.m. on June 12th, Mateen retrieved his firearms out of his vehicle and entered the bar through the main entrance once again. He was armed with the two firearms he purchased just days before, the Sig Sauer MCX rifle and the Glock 17. Mateen walked straight past a few people hanging out by the front desk, and at 2:01, made his way directly into the entryway to the main dance floor, firing off shots before he even reached the room, hitting at least one person. On the surveillance footage, you can see the moment Mateen began unloading his rifle into the crowded dance hall, as the flood of people began to run in every direction. Unfortunately, a large number of people had no chance of escape, and they fell to the floor after being struck by the barrage of rifle rounds. A young woman named Amanda Alvear was at the club and had been recording videos to post on Snapchat throughout the night. In one of the clips, gunshots can be heard ringing out. In the video, Amanda is clearly confused, but it's reported that many people in various areas of the club originally thought the shots were a part of the music, which may explain why she wasn't frantic at the time. I also believe she wasn't in the main dance area, as I'm sure her reaction would be different if she saw everyone around her fleeing suddenly. Unfortunately, Amanda passed away that night, with that video being the last evidence of her life. One of those shot during this initial burst of gunfire was a woman named Brenda McCool, who was with her son that night. She demanded him to get down before she was hit by the bullets and was killed as a result. A man named Evans had been with friends that night when the shooting started. He found refuge in the storage room located behind the main bar, along with a few other terrified people. Sources report that he peered out of the doorway and saw Mateen firing throughout the room. He and the others found their way to a secondary storage space and hid there until the shooting was over. The main dance room quickly cleared out, apart from those lying injured or already deceased on the floor. It was at 2:02 a.m., right as the shooting began, that a nearby off-duty officer, Adam Grueller, heard the shots and immediately made the decision to engage the shooter, while in process of reporting the shots, in order to get additional police to the scene. I read that he exchanged fire with Mateen, but then quickly realized he was outgunned and retreated from the building to wait for backup, which arrived about 2 minutes later at 2:04 a.m. Shortly after the shooting began, 2 young women named Patience and Akira escaped from the building from an exit on the northwest end of the property. Once outside, they realized the other girl they were there with, Tiara, who was Akira's cousin, was missing. Instead of saving themselves, the 2 of them decided to get back into the building to find their missing friend and cousin. They eventually found her, and all 3 of them followed the frantic crowd, hiding in one of the stalls located in the women's restroom on the west side of the building. Patience later recalled this time in the bathroom. "We found a handicapped bathroom stall in the back. It had about 20 people in the stall already. We could still hear gunshots going off, people screaming. We could see people reacting, and we can feel ourselves being terrified. But at the same time, there was no clarity on what was truly going on." In this time, Mateen began walking around the building's various sections, shooting those he came into contact with. He shot at someone standing outside of the club on the southern end of the secondary bar space, and turned to fire several rounds at people hidden and trying to escape on the northern side as well. 911 calls began to rush in from those who had been in the club, as well as friends and relatives who had been informed of the shooting by loved ones trapped inside the building.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
Please hurry up and get the Pulse nightclub. They are shooting up the club.
Is this for Pulse
Please, I'm in the blind.
Is this for Pulse nightclub? Ma'am, is this for Pulse nightclub?
Please hurry up and get the Pulse nightclub. Pulse nightclub.
Are you one of the victims?
Pulse nightclub.
I understand it's Pulse nightclub. Are you one of the victims?
Yes, I just got hit.
Okay, where did you
My whole body is falling asleep.
Okay, stay on the phone with me, okay? Stay on the phone with me.
I can't. My phone is tight.
Okay, stay on the phone with me.
Fast. Please come fast.
Okay, we're coming. There's police already on scene. Stay on the phone with me.
Please don't ask me fast enough. Please.
Okay, stay on the phone with me. Stay on the phone with me, okay?
Okay, I'll stay.
Okay, I'm gonna stay on the phone with you. I already have police that are there. Just stay on the phone.
Can you please tell me to hurry up?
Okay, where are you? Where are you?
I'm in the bathroom.
Okay.
I'm in the bathroom. But I'm losing blood right now. So
Okay, where were you hit? Where were you hit?
I don't know. I can't see because there's so much blood on the floor, but I think it's my arm because I'm losing feeling in my arm.
Okay.
But right now, everybody needs help, so I need y'all to please call. Huh?
Can you check your arm?
I can't.
Okay, is there anybody else
Yeah,
inside the
I'm hitting my arm. I'm hitting my arm. In my arm. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, wait.
Can you hear me?
What'd you say?
I said, is there anybody else inside the bathroom with you?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. The people inside the bathroom with you, are they injured as well?
It's like two, three other people injured.
Okay, so 2 or 3 are injured in the bathroom with you, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, just stay on the phone with me, okay? I know they're trying to get to you guys as soon as they can. I know they're already on scene, though, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to stay on the phone with you until you're with police.
Yes.
Can you hear anything?
Yes. I can't hear him putting more in the gun.
Can you hear anything?
Yes, I can hear him putting more ammo in the gun.
Okay, you hear his gun?
Mhm.
Okay. Where's the bathroom in reference to the entrance? Is it in the back?
No, it's on the side of the building.
Okay, if I'm going through the front door, is it on the left side or the right side?
Yes, it's the left side.
Okay.
And then I need you to hurry up. Like, I really need y'all to hurry up. Somebody is bleeding. It's hurting them.
Okay. Okay, try to keep them talking to you. Try to keep them engaged talking to you, okay?
I can't. I've never been in this situation before. I'm not trying to die today.
Okay, I'm gonna stay on the phone with you, okay? Stay talking to me, okay?
Mateen eventually made his way back to the main dance area and fired again a few times, targeting those already on the ground, reloading his rifle in the process. He then looped around to the northern entrance to the secondary bar area and again began shooting into the room, this time towards the southern end. 10 seconds after leaving the room, Mateen re-entered the main space once again, and this time he advanced into the room, shooting into the bodies of those lying on the ground more closely, insistent on making sure they would not survive. He made a few laps around the room, walking to various people, executing them one by one. He expended so many bullets during this that he had to reload his rifle a few times. At some point during the attack, a man named Alejandro Martinez, who was hiding in one of the bathrooms, texted his partner saying in Spanish, "I'm fine, but I don't know if I'll get out alive. I'm writing to tell you I love you." He, very sadly, was later shot and did not survive. After spending a few minutes in the main room, Mateen made his way to the west side of the building, into the secondary bar space once again, but this time, he walked into the hallway leading to the bathroom doors. At first, Mateen shot into the men's room, which was to his left. There were several people huddled together in the small space, and many were shot, some killed, when Mateen fired into the room. Then, he entered the women's bathroom directly on the other side of the hallway, where another large group of people were hiding. This is the room that Patience, Akira, and Tiara were all taking cover in. Patience later spoke about the point that Mateen entered, saying, "It became shockingly clear that this was an actual life-or-death situation. He just came in guns blazing into the bathroom, firing at everything. The bathroom stalls, the walls, everything was flying everywhere." Mateen fired randomly into the bathroom when he first entered, but was forced to stop after his rifle jammed. I was unable to determine if he shot any rounds from his Glock 17 while in the bathroom, other than when he later exchanged fire with the police. Mateen made himself comfortable and would end up spending a few hours barricaded in this room along with many of the club goers. It was around this time that Akira called her mother and told her she had been shot. Patience remembered hearing her say, "I don't want to die." Very sadly, Akira did not make it out of the club alive that night. However, Patience and Tiara both survived. Patience later attributed her survival to a man named Jason Josephat, as he reportedly put himself between the gunman and her, shielding her from the gunfire which ultimately killed him. At 2:06 a.m., a man trapped in the bathroom with Mateen, named Eddie Justice, sent a few texts to his mother which read, "Mommy, I love you. In club. They shooting. Trap in bathroom." They exchanged a few more messages, with Eddie not responding for a few minutes at a time. It was a little after 2:07 a.m., about 6 minutes after Mateen opened fire, when police first approached the building from the patio on the east side. Then, at 2:09, they finally made entry to the club from a window near the main entrance. They walked into the main dance hall and were met with the horrific sight of several people piled on top of each other, bleeding out on the floor. Some people were moving slightly, but police were unable to stop and help the victims, as they still hadn't located the threat. They made their way to the west side of the building, still in search of the shooter. It was about 10 minutes later, at around 2:19, when police began dragging people out of the main room in order to get them medical care. By this time, police had gathered around the bathrooms and began commanding the shooter to come out. A few people that were hidden in the bathroom across the hallway from the one Mateen was in took this chance to escape, desperate for the protection of the police. In the officer's body cam footage, you can hear the screams of the victims. At one point, one of the police officers discharged their firearm towards the bathrooms, still demanding the attacker to surrender.
Yes, Alpha 43. Receiving traffic from OP. They're now advising the subject still barricaded inside.
Huh? Yeah, bathroom right there, down on the door.
Down to Geo 40. Sierra 4. We probably got about 20 gunshot victims. Let us know they're going to need a lot of people.
County Bell 148. I'm inside. Suspect barricaded inside with multiple hostages. We have multiple people down, shot inside behind the bar. Can't get them out at this time.
Watch 2, we have shots fired.
Shots fired, shots fired.
Shots fired at 217. Home, side home.
Back to Mateen's actions, after he locked himself in the bathroom, he wrote a few comments on the post he made to Facebook just before the attack began. One read, "Allegiance." He also posted, "You kill innocent women and children by doing US airstrikes. Now taste the Islamic State vengeance." A minute later, he wrote, "In the next few days, you will see attacks from the Islamic State in the USA." And then about 6 minutes later, he commented, "The real Muslims will never accept the filthy ways of the West." Mateen also made several calls to a few numbers while in the bathroom. At 2:35, he called 911 and spoke to an operator for about 50 seconds.
Emergency 911, this is Dr. Lines being recorded. What?
I want to let you know I'm in Orlando, and I did the shooting.
What's your name?
My name is, I pledge of allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi of the Islamic State.
Okay. What's your name?
I pledge my allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, Hafidullah, on behalf of the Islamic State.
Where are you at?
In Orlando.
Where in Orlando?
At 2:39, one of those trapped in the bathroom, Eddie Justice, texted his mother again, saying, "He's coming. I'm gonna die." She asked him if there was anyone injured, to which he replied, Lots. Yes. Eddie's mother then asked him if the shooter was in the bathroom with him, and he texted back at 2:50 saying, "He's a terror. Yes." This would be the last message sent by Eddie, and his mother would never talk to him again, as he lost his life in the attack. At 2:41 and 2:45 a.m., Mateen searched "Call Orlando News" and "Call News." From these searches, it's assumed that he was trying to find the phone number to a local news station. According to reports, Mateen was able to find one and placed a call to the News 13 station and spoke with a producer. Mateen asked if they had heard of the shooting and then proceeded to say, "I'm the shooter. It's me. I am the shooter." He then stated that the attack was in support of the Islamic State, saying that he was doing it for ISIS. Mateen then began speaking in Arabic, and when asked if there was anything else he wanted to say, he declined and hung up. At 2:48, a negotiation call was initiated, which lasted almost 10 minutes. In this call, Mateen demanded the US to stop bombing Syria and Iraq. He also told the negotiator that he had a bomb somewhere outside of the club and wasn't afraid to ignite it if necessary. Mateen also alluded to wearing some sort of vest. I'm going to play just a snippet from the calls so that you have an idea about what they consisted of.
Hello there. Hi there, this is Orlando Police. Who am I speaking with, please?
You're speaking with the person who pledged his allegiance to the Islamic State, Adulthood al-Baghdadi, Hafidullah.
Okay, can you tell me where you are right now so I can get you some help?
No, because you have to tell America to stop bombing Syria and Iraq. They're killing a lot of innocent people. So what am I to do here when my people are getting killed over there? You get what I'm saying?
I do. I completely get what you're saying. What I'm trying to do is prevent anybody else from getting in.
They need to stop the U.S. airstrikes. They need to stop the U.S. airstrikes, okay?
I understand that.
They need to stop the U.S. airstrikes. You have to tell the U.S. government to stop bombing. They're killing too many children. They're killing too many women.
I understand that. But here's why I'm here right now. I'm with the Orlando Police. Can you tell me what you know about what's going on tonight?
What's going on
is
that I feel the pain of the people getting killed in Syria and Iraq and all over the Muslim Ummah.
Okay. So have you done something about that?
Yes, I have.
Tell me what you did, please.
No, you already know what I did.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to keep you safe and how to get this resolved peacefully, because I'm not a politician, I'm not a government. All I can do is help individuals, and I'm going to start with helping you.
By the way, there's some vehicles outside that have some bombs, just to let you know. Your people are going to get it, and I'm going to ignite it if they try to do anything stupid.
Okay, I understand that, and I'll pass that along. Can you tell me what vehicle? Because I don't want to see anybody get hurt.
No. But I'll tell you this, it can take out a whole city block almost.
I understand that. Tell me, in the club, do you have any injured people with you that you brought with you?
I'm not letting you know nothing.
Well, I'm trying to offer you help.
Well, you need to know that they need to stop bombing Syria and Iraq. The U.S. is collaborating with Russia, and they're killing innocent women and children, okay?
I hear what you're saying.
My homeboy Tamerlan Sarnaik did his thing on the Boston Marathon. My homeboy Munir Abu Salha did his thing, okay? So now it's my turn, okay?
I can help you.
I have a vest.
Okay, you have a vest.
Hey.
I understand that. Okay, and so what kind of vest are you talking about? Is it a bullet-resistant vest? Is it a bomb vest?
No. It's what they use in France.
It's what they use in France. Okay.
All right, I gotta go.
Well, I'd like you to stay on the phone with me, please. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you there? Please stay on the phone with me so I can help pass along your concerns.
You could bring the bomb dog. Bring your little American bomb dog.
Okay, well,
they're fucking outdated anyway.
Well, tell me, you're wearing what? I presume from what you're saying, you're wearing a bomb vest.
No.
Well, you said you're wearing a vest.
No, I'm not.
So what are you wearing?
Yeah, like, to go out to a wedding.
Okay. I'm not trying to joke with you. I'm trying to be serious and get this peacefully resolved. Okay? So, are you wearing a bomb vest?
Mateen never responded to this question and did not say anything for the rest of the call. A second call was initiated at 3:03 a.m., but from the recording, it seems as though after Mateen answered, they spoke for a very short time, and then he hung up. They continued calling him over and over, and were not able to get a hold of him for quite a while. Finally, Mateen decided to pick up and proceeded to continue his rant, in which he also gave a reason as to why he committed the attack.
If he picks up, I'm just going to call him over. Hello, Omar. This is Andy from Orlando Police.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what's going on right now, Omar.
Yo, the airstrike that killed Abu Wahib a few weeks ago,
yes,
that's what triggered it, okay?
Okay.
Okay? They shouldn't have bombed and killed Abu Wahib, okay?
I understand.
And do your fucking homework and figure out who Abu Wahib is, okay?
I understand that. What I want to find out is, are you injured? Omar. Well, I understand that, but if you're injured, I want to get you some help.
No.
Okay, do you have somebody with you?
None of your business.
Okay, tell me what you want me to pass along. Because I can't sit here and do research. I want to pass along. Tell them to stop bombing in Syria.
Yes, the airstrikes need to stop. Stop collaborating with Russia. Okay?
Mateen repeated himself again and again, and then at one point stopped responding to the negotiator, hanging up. And so, they called over and over again, but did not receive an answer until a few minutes later. Finally, at 3:24, Mateen picked up the phone once again. In this one, the negotiator is noticeably sterner with Mateen.
Omar.
Yeah.
What's going on? I couldn't get a hold of you for a while.
Well, you're annoying me with these phone calls, and I don't really appreciate it.
Well, I understand that, but the fact that you appreciate it or not doesn't matter at this point. We need to talk, and we need to stay in open communication.
Like that. Hey, no.
No. I'm treating you like an adult. We need to stay in constant contact.
No.
Tell me what's going on right now, Omar.
What's going on is that the airstrikes need to stop.
Yes.
Need to stop.
The airstrikes need to stop. I've heard that, and I want you to come outside and tell us that yourself, so the message rings true from you. Not me passing along your message. I'm doing that, but I need you to come outside with no weapons. Omar.
After this, Mateen apparently hung up, and following this, there was no more communication with him. At this point, the club was swarmed with officers doing their best to put an end to the threat. While Mateen was still barricaded in the bathroom, police continued to evacuate as many injured people as possible out of the building. They pushed in AC units in at least one room to allow people trapped inside to escape, and physically dragged out any injured victims that they could from all over the building. Because of the vague mention of a vest earlier in the calls, police were worried that he was wearing or had some of the hostages wearing vests strapped with bombs. Some of the people trapped in the bathroom with Mateen recorded snippets of him speaking. In these recordings, it sounds like Mateen is talking with someone over the phone, but it's clear that he isn't speaking with police.
Yeah, I might as well stay there, son. I got some people here that press it's gonna blow up the whole fucking room. I may do it. Hold on. Yeah, man. No, there's 3 of us. No, I'm the 4th. There's fucking 3 of them outside. They're gonna attack any time. The cops don't even fucking know. Just start shooting that thing whenever at the same time. Yeah, give it about 15-20 more minutes. They don't even fucking see you. Sniper it, man, sniper it. Kareem, Muhammad, and Abdul Karim. They're one on east, west, and north. They have no fucking idea. I know. I'll hit you back, bro. Later. Nah, Abdullah's playing dumb outside right now in where the bar is at. As soon as they come in, they're gonna fucking attack. No, Abdullah's outside right now. He's laying down right now. Yeah, you got your weapons right now. As soon as the cops come in, fucking blow your vest, dude. No, she has her vest too. Jamila, yeah. No, Jamila's here too. No, they don't know where she's at. She's on the side.
I wasn't able to find any evidence of these calls actually taking place, but we do know that these supposed other attackers never did what Mateen claimed they would. Plus, it sounds a little too scripted to me. I think we can reasonably assume that what he was saying was a big lie, and that he was just feigning the phone calls to intimidate the hostages. At 3:19 and onwards for about an hour, Mateen searched for various phrases such as Orlando Police Department, Orlando, shooting nightclub, November 2015 Paris attacks, Florida shooting, gunman, and Pulse Orlando. He also visited a few sites that were beginning their reporting on the ongoing massacre. At 4:27, Noor texted Mateen asking, "Where are you?" He replied, "Everything okay?" She texted back, "Your mom is worried, and so am I." Mateen said, "You heard what happened?" Noor sent, "You know you work tomorrow, right?" Then he repeated, "You heard what happened?" His mother then tried to call him, but it appears that he never picked up as the length of the phone call was reported to be 0 seconds. Noor texted him once again with a bunch of question marks, and then, "What happened?" To which he replied, "I love you, babe." That was his last text message to Noor. At 4:50, Mateen searched for bullet lodged in barrel and opened a forum that discussed the topic. From this, it's believed that he had been attempting to unjam his rifle himself, but was unable to do so and therefore sought out a solution. As far as I gathered, he never did use the rifle again, so I don't believe he was ever able to unjam it. Then, 15 minutes later, he visited one last site reporting on the shooting. Just past 5 a.m., 3 hours after the massacre began, police finally began setting up to gain entry to the area that the gunman was held up in. They placed explosive charges on the exterior of the western wall and detonated them. There ended up being several holes in various locations on the wall. I read that the first detonation took place on the exterior wall of the southern bathroom in order to rescue the victims hiding inside. However, the first detonations did not give police full access, so they used an armored truck to finally breach the wall completely by ramming it repeatedly. Then, authorities created a hole leading to the space between both bathrooms. Mateen reportedly opened fire within the north bathroom around this time, which prompted authorities to deploy flashbangs, as well as quickly breach the wall into the north bathroom. This apparently drew Mateen out into the hallway, where he then began opening fire out at the police with his Glock, and they quickly returned fire, reportedly shooting around 170 rounds at this time, all towards Mateen. Mateen managed to hit one of the officers in the head, but thankfully he was wearing a ballistic helmet that took the brunt of the force, and so he survived.
What was that?
Oh, yeah, what's up?
I got him. Turn on your light. Turn on your light. Turn on your light. Call for OFD right now. They can fucking get their trucks. Okay.
As a result of the gunfight, Mateen was shot 8 times, once in the right calf, 3 times in the right foot, once in the abdomen, twice in the right chest, and once in the head, and was killed, finally putting an end to what was at the time the worst mass killing in modern US history. Survivors were finally rescued from the bathroom they had been trapped in with a deranged killer for almost 3 hours. In total, there were 49 innocent lives taken in various areas of the club during the massacre. At least 53 others were injured, but survived the devastating attack, though some sources state the number of wounded was 58. Police used a robot to maneuver Mateen's body in order to check for any bombs he may have been wearing. Outside, police located Mateen's vehicle and also used a robot to safely secure it. Inside, they found many items including boxes of ammunition, a doll, and the stroller that he potentially planned to use to disguise his firearm at Disney. Later that day, police spoke to Mateen's wife in hopes of getting answers as to why the attack took place. Noor gave a statement to police in which she claimed that Mateen had been spending a lot of time on concerning websites, watching ISIS recruitment videos, as well as graphic videos of beheadings regularly, even sometimes in front of his young son. She wrote, "For the last 2 years, Omar has been angry and vocal about what happens to Muslims in the Middle East, saying things like, 'Why is it okay for Muslims to die, but when a Muslim kills people in America, they are attacked?'" According to Noor's written statement, she had a feeling that he was going to commit some sort of attack. She wrote, "Over the past 2 years, when Omar would watch a lot of jihad videos on the computer, talked about jihad and violence, talked about Muslims not being able to retaliate against Americans, I often worry that he was going to commit an act of violence or terrorism." Something that sticks out about part of her statement is that Noor claims at one point they slowly drove around for quite a while, and that Mateen was looking at clubs in the area. She also claimed that they specifically drove around Pulse for about 20 minutes, and that Mateen later was looking at the club's website, but as far as I was able to find, there was no evidence that could prove either of these claims true. She also wrote, "A few days later, we drove to Orlando for 3 hours. We visited downtown Disney and an Arabic restaurant. While at downtown Disney, he left me and my son for 20 minutes, but I don't know what he was doing. When leaving downtown Disney," Omar said, "what would make people more upset? An attack on downtown Disney or a club?" Later in her statement, Noor wrote, "I knew Omar was preparing for jihad when he bought the rifle, was going to the range to shoot, was spending a lot of money, and bought the ammunition. I saw these things as a green light for Omar to do an act of violence. I suspected it was going to be something having to do with a club, but I did not know for sure. I suspected it was a club because of the things he said to me." Despite claiming she didn't know for sure what place he was going to target, Noor later wrote that Mateen specifically told her what club he was going to attack. She wrote, "On Friday, June 10th, 2016, late night, Omar was looking at a website for the Pulse Nightclub, and when I saw what he was looking at, he said, This is my target. I knew that the time to attack the club was close. Then, in the next paragraph, she wrote, "On Saturday, June 11th, 2016, before Omar left the house, he asked me if he looked Spanish. He was pumped up, had the ammunition, backpack, and his gun, and said to me, 'This is the one day.' I knew when he left the house. He was going to Orlando to attack the Pulse nightclub." Her statements included a few other things, but that is the gist of it. We will talk a little bit more about all of this when we go over Noor's later trial. As I'm sure you can imagine, the community was hit hard by this tragedy. Very soon after it took place, theories on the shooter's motive began to spring up. Of course, it was quickly labeled as a hate crime against the LGBTQ community due to the circumstances. Mateen's religion and assumed aggressive radicalization were also the focal point of a lot of proposed motives, especially when the calls between him and the negotiator came out. People latched onto the reasons he gave for committing the shooting, as well as the threats he made about upcoming attacks. His ex-wife, Satora, spoke up about this possibility, with her saying he did follow religion, he did practice, and he had his faith, but showed no sign of radicalism. Of course, it's plausible that it could have happened after their relationship was over, so it's not outrageous to assume she wouldn't have known. However, his father, Sadiq, also spoke out about the allegations that Mateen was heavily radicalized online, with him stating, "I don't think he was radicalized. That's what my gut feeling tells me." According to Sadiq, he had no clue what Mateen's motive would be for committing his massacre. Sadiq also claimed that he did not raise Mateen to be hateful, that he was taught to be accepting of others. Sadiq later said in an interview, "If he was alive, I would ask him one question: why?" He also later stated, "If he had such a horrible idea, I wish he did go out of the United States, killed himself somewhere else." When later asked about the rumors surrounding his son's sexuality, Sadiq said, "It's not true. Why, if he was gay, would he do this?" In an interesting turn of events, Sadiq was actually an informant for the FBI for over 10 years, from January 2005 to June of 2016, right up until the shooting took place. Now, there are a few interesting pieces of information regarding Mateen's father, such as that he was reportedly transferring money to Turkey and Afghanistan in the months leading up to the shooting. And also, that there had been a tip submitted to the FBI back in 2012, claiming that Sadiq was attempting to raise money to contribute towards an attack against Pakistan's government. Before the attack, Mateen's father also appeared on what is described as an anti-American politically centered TV show broadcasted from California, where he would travel to every 2 months. According to many sources, on this show, Sadiq criticized the president of both Pakistan and Afghanistan. It's also said that he praised the Taliban on the show. Some sources describe this show as satirical, while others do not. Some suggest that Sadiq knew more about his son's plans than he let on, so I wanted to include a little bit that was reported about him as well. I do want to focus on Mateen for the most part, so let's move on. Following the massacre, those who knew or claimed they knew Mateen spoke out. Daniel, Mateen's former co-worker, made a few statements after the attack saying, "I'm not surprised at what he did. I always knew he had something in him like that. And if I had to pick one person that would be capable of that, it would be him." He also said, "I kind of feel a little guilty that I didn't fight harder. If I didn't walk away and I fought, then maybe 50 people would still be alive today." James Van Horn, who said he saw Mateen at Pulse many times, later recalled when he found out that he was the attacker. James said, "We just went, oh, that makes sense. That's Omar." He added that he believed the attack was less about Mateen's religious extremism and more about his supposed hidden sexuality. I think it's possible that he was trying to deal with his inner demons, of trying to get rid of his anger of homosexuality. It's really confusing to me, because you can't change who you are. but if you pretend that you're different, then you may shoot up a gay bar. The idea that Mateen's wife, Noor, was involved in the planning of the massacre picked up really fast, and she remained on the authorities' radar for some time. She was eventually arrested about 7 months after the attack, on January 16, 2017, and was charged with obstruction of justice and aiding and abetting Mateen's attempted provision and provision of material support to Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Of course, Noor's lawyer immediately denied her having any knowledge of or part in the planning for the shooting. Her lawyer said, Noor Salman had no foreknowledge, nor could she predict what Omar Mateen intended to do that tragic night. Noor has told her story of abuse at his hands. We believe it is misguided and wrong to prosecute her, and that it dishonors the memories of the victims to punish an innocent person. After Noor was held in custody for 2 years, a trial took place. But I'm also not going to go too far into this, as it ended in her being acquitted of the charges. But I do want to talk about it a little bit. Of course, her previous statements to police were very concerning, and led many to believe that she, at the very least, knew her husband was going to commit an attack. According to PBS.com, Noor, at times, made many false claims to law enforcement, including that Mateen didn't use the internet at home, that he deactivated his Facebook account in 2013, that he only owned 1 gun, and that he was not radicalized, all claims that were investigated and found to be untrue. Her defense team stated that Noor had a low IQ, was easily intimidated and manipulated, and was exhausted after being interrogated by police on the day of the shooting, which led her to create and sign a false statement. The defense also brought up Noor's alleged abuse at the hands of her husband, and stated that she too was an innocent victim of Mateen. Long story short, the jury sided with the defense and found Noor not guilty on all charges, and so she was set free. Following the attack, to honor the victims, there were several memorials created around the city. Photos of those who lost their lives were put up outside of the club, where they could be remembered for the amazing people they were. The Orlando Museum of Art also unveiled a 44-foot wide mural to memorialize the victims of this tragedy. It features portraits of those who died, as well as some of the survivors and first responders. A larger and more lasting memorial was set to be built, but unfortunately, it never did end up happening. However, as of 2 weeks ago, many news sources have reported that the final design is being worked on and approved of as we speak. Now, let's move on to the section of the video dedicated to remembering the innocent victims. Due to the sheer amount of lives ended that night, I'm unable to share as much on each person as I usually do. But of course, I will still talk about each victim a little bit. I will try to link some sites that have more information on each of them. Stanley Almodovar was born on June 25, 1992, and was 23 years old at the time of his death. It was said that he loved to express himself and often changed his hair color. Those in the club that night report that Stanley put himself in front of others to protect them during the shooting. 25-year-old Amanda Lizette Alver was born on December 12, 1990. Her brother later spoke about her. She was strong, independent, stubborn, which is one of the reasons I tried to keep hope as long as possible, because I firmly believe that if anyone could get shot and be too stubborn to die, it's my sister. She was with a friend, Mercedes, who also died that night. Mercedes Marisol Flores was born on April 21, 1990, making her 26 years old at the time of her death. She was described as a fun, caring person who absolutely loved music. Her niece later spoke about her saying, "Whenever I was in the car with her, she always had the music blasting, and I guess she got the love of music from my father and uncle, who are DJs." Oscar Ambiorix Aracena Montero was 26 years old when he was shot and killed, and was born on May 12, 1990. He had just purchased a home with his husband the year prior, and they had 3 chihuahuas together. His husband, Simone, was also killed in the attack. Simón Adrián Carrillo Fernández was born on July 18, 1984, and was 31 years old at the time of his death. He was married to the previous victim, Oscar, and the two of them had just got back home after a vacation in the days before their deaths. The two of them loved to travel and spend time with one another. Rodolfo Ayala Ayala was 33 years old, born on March 14, 1983. Those who knew him remarked that Rodolfo was not afraid to be himself, and that he was a very funny guy who enjoyed pranking others. He was also very dedicated to his work, which was as a biologics assistant at a blood donation center. 21-year-old Alejandro Barrios Martinez was born on April 21, 1995. He was a happy guy, full of dreams for his future. He had gotten a new job recently, which he was celebrating that night at the club. He was a very outgoing person, with one of his friends later saying, "Every interaction I had with him was totally positive." Martin Benitez Torres was born on January 27, 1983, and was 33 years old at the time of his death. He was said to have been a very positive person who could see the beauty in anything around him. He made those around him happy as well, with his friends describing him as humble, caring, and selfless. Antonio Davon Brown was 30 years old when he was killed, born on September 30, 1985. He majored in criminal justice before graduating from college and went on to serve as a captain in the Army Reserve. His former ROTC instructor said, "He was a very positive person with a very good sense of humor. He was willing to work very hard to earn his commission." 29-year-old Daryl Roman Burt was born on January 13, 1987. He was a financial aid officer and was involved in the Jacksonville JCs, with the president of the organization saying, "He was personable, social, and easygoing. Both socially and professionally, he was always interested in making a positive impact on people's lives and in the community." Jonathan Antonio Kamui Vega was 24 years old and was born on June 21, 1991. He had recently moved to Florida to pursue a career and had gotten a job working for a popular television network. On his off time, Jonathan loved to spend time with his family and loved to dance. He was at the club with a few friends that night, one of which, Yilmary, also lost her life. Yilmary Rodriguez Sullivan was born on September 10, 1991, and was 24 years old at the time of her death. Like stated just a second ago, Yilmary was out that night with friends having a good time. In fact, before the shooting began, they all took a picture together to capture the night. It's said that Jonathan had attempted to protect her, but was sadly unsuccessful. Yilmary was a mother, and very unfortunately left behind her two young sons when she lost her life. Angel Luis Candelario Padro was born on September 7, 1987, and was 28 years old at the time. He had also very recently moved to Florida and began a new job as an ophthalmic technician. His family described him as a good person, someone without any vices, who was very humble, respectful, and studious. Juan Chavez Martinez was born sometime in 1992 and was either 23 or 24. His supervisor at work said, "He was extremely friendly, very dedicated to his family, to his co-workers. It is very difficult. Everybody loved him." He was also described as a very friendly and caring person. 39-year-old Luis Daniel Conde was born on December 8, 1976. He and his husband Juan ran a beauty salon together. Their customers remarked that the couple loved to make people feel good and strive to give them the best service and experience possible at their salon. Luis's husband, Juan Pablo Rivera Velázquez, was 37 years old and was born on February 9, 1979. They had reportedly been together for 16 years and loved to go out dancing together. The couple's friend later said, "I will always remember these two beautiful people as always smiling and with good humor, always positive, with good and kind hearts." Corey James Connell was born on August 18, 1994, and was 21 years old when he was killed. Corey was very close to his family with his brother later stating that he was a family man through and through. At the time of his death, Corey was in college and was working at Publix. Those who knew him said that he aspired to become a firefighter. He was there at the club hanging out with a few friends that night. Gerald Arthur Wright was 30 or 31 years old, born sometime in 1985. He was working at Disney World and had been for a few years at that point. Those he worked with said he was a great co-worker to have. Gerald was actually straight, according to them, but was at Pulse that night with Corey, who, like I just talked about, also passed away. 25-year-old Tevin Eugene Crosby was born on April 9, 1991. He was a very kind and ambitious person, and had even started his own business at a young age, a marketing firm. His brother said, whatever goal he had in mind, he worked hard. Whether alone or on a team, he worked on that goal. One friend described him as the nicest guy they knew. Frankie Jimmy de Jesus Velazquez was 50 years old and was born sometime in 1966. He attended the Inter-American University in Puerto Rico before moving to Florida. His best friend of over 3 decades, Sarah Lopez, later recalled that he never left her side and pledged to keep that up forever. He was the oldest victim of the massacre. 32-year-old Dianca Deidre Drayton was born on July 5, 1983. Those who knew her described her as magnetic with an infectious smile. She truly loved people, especially her friends and family. Her loved ones described her as energetic, with an incredibly expressive personality. Peter Omi Gonzalez Cruz was 22 years old when he was killed, born on April 15, 1994. Those who knew Peter later recalled that he was always smiling and was the life of the party. His mother later said, "A piece of my life was torn away. I want to keep sleeping to remember all the best moments we had together as a family, and the best thing, your smile." Gilberto Ramon Silva Menendez was born on November 9, 1990, and was 25 years old when he was killed. His family described him as warm and fun to be around, with his cousins saying, he was the light and the life of all the family gatherings. At the time of his death, Gilberto was studying healthcare management. Juan Ramon Guerrero was born on June 28, 1993, and was 22 years old when his life was taken. He was described as a kind person, great student, and an amazing son. His family said that he was not generally a party person, but enjoyed Latin music, which was playing at Pulse that night. He was there with his boyfriend Christopher, who also passed away. Christopher Andrew Leinenen was 32 years old when he died, and was born on June 1, 1984. He was a mental health counselor and had previously earned the Anne Frank Humanitarian Award for starting the Gay-Straight Alliance in high school. A friend of his said, he had the ability when he was talking to make you feel like the only person in the world. He would do anything for the people he cared about. He loved life, and he was always laughing. 41-year-old Paul Terrell Henry was born on January 23, 1975. He was said to have been an amazing father to his 2 kids. Those who knew him also said that Paul loved music, played the piano, and enjoyed singing and dancing. Unsurprisingly, he was looking forward to clubbing that night. Frank Escalante Hernandez was born on July 27, 1998, and was 27 years old when he was killed. It's clear from reading about Frank that he was not afraid to be who he was. His friends and family described him as funny, goofy, and very lovable. His siblings also later said that he was a great big brother. 30-year-old Miguel Angel Honorado was born on February 10, 1986. He was said to have been a very kind and caring person who absolutely loved his children. This is evident, with his wife saying, "He was a really good dad, and he was always on top of the kids. When I started working, he's the one who would take care of them." Javier Jorge Reyes was 40 years old when he died, born on February 4, 1976. He was described as very sassy, with an amazing energy about him. A friend of his later said, "Your smile was contagious, and your sass always entertaining. You made me feel like a beautiful woman and mother, even on days I couldn't see it. And you had an uncanny knack for making my baby kick on demand when I was pregnant. Jason Benjamin Josephat was born on August 20th, 1995, and was 20 years old when he passed away. He was described as bright and hardworking. A friend of his recalled him being a kind and welcoming person. She also said, Jason was the loudest. He was always giggling. His laugh was unforgettable. He is remembered as a hero after he put himself in harm's way to save another person hiding with him that night. Eddie Jamoldroy Justice was 30 years old and was born on March 24th, 1986. His mother later recalled that he absolutely loved to eat, but also enjoyed working out. He also loved going to the club, which is why he was at Pulse that night with friends. Those friends described him as always happy and positive, someone who could make anyone smile at any time. 25-year-old Anthony Luis Laureano Disla was born on October 13, 1990. According to those who knew him, he was a very happy person and was very kind as well. Anthony loved dancing, and it was his passion in life. He had actually moved to Orlando to pursue becoming a dancer and choreographer. Brenda Lee Marquez McCool was born on February 27, 1967, and was 49 years old. She had 11 kids, one of which she loved to go to Pulse with. They were together that night, but she protected him, and he survived the attack. Brenda had survived cancer twice in her life and always stayed positive. The son she was with that night later said, "I never thought that her life would be ended right in front of my eyes. I kept so positive that she was going to make it. Everybody who knew my mom knew she was the mom everybody wanted. She always took everybody in with open arms. She loved everybody equally no matter what. I just want to thank everybody for the support, because she literally loved everyone. I wouldn't trade my mom for the world." Jean Carlos Mendez Perez was 35 years old, born on July 27, 1980. He was said to have been a shy person and loved to go to the movies or on vacations. He had originally met his boyfriend, Luis, when he sold him a fragrance, before later running into him at a club, where they hit it off. He was with his boyfriend that night, along with 2 other friends, all of whom sadly passed away during the attack. 37-year-old Luis Daniel Wilson Leon was born on February 26, 1979. He was said to have been a very accepting and loving person. One of his friends said, "He was the first person on this earth I came out to, and he always protected and loved his friends. His strength and character was always an inspiration to all of us." Like stated before, Luis was with his boyfriend, Jean, that night. Akira Monet Murray was born on January 27, 1988, and was 18 years old when she died. She was in Orlando celebrating her very recent graduation from high school, where she had been a top student and extraordinary athlete. After her death, her coach said, "This is a very difficult day, not just for the Murray family, but for the West Catholic family, and all that were touched by Akira's warmth and magnetic embrace." Kimberly Jean Morris was 37 years old, born on January 19, 1979. She had only moved to Orlando about 2 months before her death. There, she was actually employed at Pulse and was working that night. She was described as a kind girl, with one of her friends saying, "She was just the sweetest person. I can't think of a time when I did not see a smile on her face. I'm so thankful of the good memories I have of her." 27-year-old Jean Carlos Nieves Rodriguez was born on March 28, 1989. In the months before his death, John purchased a home for him and his mom to live in. He was a loving and selfless person according to everyone who knew him. He was also described as a very passionate and hardworking person, with a friend of his recalling that he always put a ton of effort into anything he did. Luis Omar Ocasio Capo was born on April 3, 1996, and was 20 years old at the time of his death. One thing that is obvious about him is that he loved to dance and act, and wanted to make a career out of them both. In fact, one of Luis's friends said, "The reason why he moved to Orlando was for his acting and dancing career, and it hurts that he is not able to do that anymore. Geraldo Ortiz Jimenez was 25 years old, born on July 12, 1990. Those who knew him said that Geraldo had an exceptional personality and was someone that could cheer anyone up no matter the situation. His niece said this about him. He was a very sweet guy. He always made everyone laugh and he was very kind to everyone. Eric Ivan Ortiz Rivera was born on March 25, 1980, and was 36 years old. Like many of the victims, Eric was from Puerto Rico, but according to his obituary, he had reportedly moved to Orlando, Florida in search of a better life for himself. He enjoyed hanging out with friends and was described by them as a goofball who loved to dance at all times. 31-year-old Joel Rayon Paniagua was born on September 18, 1984. He was described as a friendly and fun person, a hard worker, and someone that you could always depend on. A friend of his said, "He was the best. He was loyal. He was always trying to do stuff to make you feel better." Enrique Rios was either 24 or 25 years old and was born in 1991. Enrique was a very kind person who loved caring for older people. In fact, he was acting as his grandmother's caretaker at the time of his death. Enrique was also in school and was studying to later become a social worker. It's clear from everyone that knew him that he was a caring, helpful, and selfless individual. Christopher Joseph Sanfelice was born on November 17, 1991, and was 24 years old when he lost his life. According to those who knew him, Christopher was a big family man. He and his brother especially got along well and were very close. His brother said, "Everyone knows the bond that I had with my brother. We would finish each other's sentences, knew each other's thoughts, and could sense when the other was upset." 35-year-old Xavier Emmanuel Serrano Rosado was born on October 29, 1980. One thing that was clear about Xavier is that he was truly an exceptional father. Everyone who knew him described him this way, with one friend saying, "He is so talented. What hurts the most is that he's one of the best fathers I know. He would work multiple jobs and pass on hanging out with friends just to make an extra $1 for his son." Xavier loved to dance, and of course, loved his young son even more. Edward Manuel Sotomayor was 34 years old, born on November 4, 1981. He was a loving guy and was described as the glue that held his family together. Edward was a national brand manager at a LGBTQ-focused travel agency and loved to help others find a way to travel to their dream destinations. Everyone in his life recalled that he was a very special person with a heart of gold. Shane Evan Tomlinson was born on August 25, 1981, and was 34 years old when his life was taken from him. Shane was the lead vocalist in a cover band who had played a show at a local bar just hours before he was killed. He was deeply in love with music and always worked hard to advance his career in entertainment. A friend of his said, "He's just a very charismatic performer. He has lots of energy. Depending on what he's doing, he adapts to whatever that show needs." 25-year-old Leroy Valentin Fernandez was born on September 16, 1990. Those who knew Leroy described him as a passionate person who loved to perform. His manager later said that Leroy filled the office with music at all times. He was also a positive person, someone who always posted inspirational messages on social media encouraging people to be happy. And last but not least, Luis Sergio Vielma was born on October 15, 1993, and was 22 years old when he passed away. He was an emergency medical student and was also working at Universal Studios, where he was said to have absolutely loved his job. His sister later said, "I would love for people to know how much of a kind spirit he was. We can't bear the feeling without him here. He was that ray of sunshine in our lives to make everything better. Nothing in the world could ever repair that void in my heart." Whether Mateen's attack was the result of homophobia or religious extremism is debated. However, a combination of both is still possible. At the end of the day, 49 innocent people lost their lives for absolutely no reason, all of whom sounded like truly amazing people, who should have never been in that situation to begin with. I hope that the victims' families have been able to and will continue to heal from this horrific event. Please take a moment to think about the 49 lives taken on June 12th, 2016. May they forever be remembered as the extraordinary people that they were. And with that, thank you all for sticking with us through this truly heartbreaking and devastating story. And thank you for keeping the comment section kind and respectful. Please let us know what your thoughts are on this case. We want to take a quick moment to give a special thank you to all of our members who help make it possible to continue creating long videos like this. If you would like to become a member as well, please follow the link in the description or the pinned comment to take a look at the options. We are eternally grateful to any of you who do choose to support the channel further. With everything out of the way, we sincerely hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and we hope you guys have had a very happy new year.